Good evening, everybody. Kevin J. Johnston here. This is the Real Estate and Money Show that plays every single Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And tonight we're going to talk about your credit score and how to protect your credit score, how to not harm yourself. I think is more importantly what the credit score thing is all about for tonight's show. I mean, I really want to make sure that we're delving deeply into what is both right and wrong with the FICO score system that we have in Canada and the United States. I'm sure many of you have gone out to apply for loans at some point in the past, and you've probably been denied at some point in the past. I think all of us have at some point. And with being denied a loan or just an opportunity even to rent, it's soul crushing. It's heartbreaking. And typically you have no idea why you've been crushed, why you can't get that loan, why you cannot rent that place, why you can't get the car lease that you want, why you can't get a simple $500 credit card. These are things that are very important to understand. Now, I don't have all of the answers because unfortunately, FICO score algorithms are quite hidden from the public. They don't really tell us what they're basing all the positive stuff on, but I do have some of what to do. However, even though I don't have all the positive stuff that you can do, I've got the vast majority of the negative stuff that you can avoid to keep your credit score in good standing. So first things first is you want to talk about how you can find out what your credit score is. There are two major corporations in North America that people will go to check your credit score when you're applying for anything, any kind of credit whatsoever, or any kind of lease or rent. All right, that would be Equifax, EQUIFAX, Equifax.com in Canada. It's .ca. And the other one is TransUnion. Now, as far as I am concerned, these are criminal entities. What they do is they give you a credit score, but you never ask them to. Isn't that strange? They have your entire credit history that you never asked them to create. They have a credit score for you that you never asked them once to keep on. They're keeping records on your spending habits that you've never given permission for them to do. But somehow, if you've got a social security number in the States or a social insurance number in Canada, somehow they will know that you have these very things. So how do we combat this nonsense? And it is nonsense. All right. For TransUnion and for Equifax, all of you have to find out what your FICO score is. It goes, I think as low as 300, it goes all the way to 950. If you have a FICO score of 750 or higher, you're going to be pretty good at getting bank loans out there. And there is a way to get that to happen. I'll cover as much as I can in the next 52 minutes because it's only an hour show, everybody. How do you get your score? Well, Equifax and TransUnion, because of whatever deals that they've signed with the government, have to give you one free credit score of your own each year. So you go to their website, equifax.com or .ca, transunion.com or .ca, and you give them your necessary identification. Don't use a driver's license. If you've got a passport, always use your passport for any form of identification in Canada. Anytime at all that you want to know or do anything for that matter, it's passport only. It's nobody's business where you live. I know that a lot of you out there don't think that you've got the right to have your driver's license go to a PO box, and many of you can't afford to have one, but maybe 10 or 20 friends should all get together and have a PO box, split the cost, and send your driver's license there, just so that there is nobody spying around your house looking for what you got. All right. And the reason I say that is as a podcaster, unfortunately, when I was podcasting in Calgary in 2021, everybody in the city knew where I lived. They all knew that there was going to be a podcast taking place there. So we always had to double lock and triple lock our doors. So we had the front door was locked. We put a steel cage over the window of the room that we used, and we installed an extra door in the hallway and put a lock on that just to buy time if anybody chose to break in. It sucks when people know where you live. So don't let anyone know where you live. But you are allowed to get yourself that free credit score, and you got to find out everything on that credit report that is harming you. Now, you have the right to object to everything on your credit score when you get it. Now, don't be silly and object to everything at the same time. What you got to do is you got to pick on small stuff. So what you got to look out for is late payments on credit cards. You got to look out for a bill you didn't pay and figure out who it was you didn't pay it to. You got to look for what's called the R9. R9 is when you just completely abandon a debt. All right. How do these things get there? Well, people that you didn't pay will put it there. Sometimes people you don't like will put it there to damage your credit score, damage your reputation. So you want to begin writing simple letters, send them registered mail to Equifax saying that you have no idea what that is. It seems like it's either erroneous or it's fraudulent. Please remove it. And they are obligated at that point to prove that there was a debt. You don't have to prove there is no debt. They have to prove that there is one. If there's going to be an R9 or any particular type of complaint on Equifax or TransUnion, you've got to demand in your letter, what is it? Who's the contract with? Where did it come from? Why is it there? And they've got to prove all that. If they can't prove it, you have to demand you deal with this in 30 days or you must remove it, and they will remove it. R9s are a bit more difficult if it's a credit card company, because obviously the credit card company will be able to prove it, but we can still argue it. You want to make sure that each time you get something off your credit score, that you send another letter in complaining about the next thing. Get your credit score to be patched up as quickly as is possible. Now, what is it based on? Well, here's a graphic, everybody. I got to put this white piece of paper here so you can see all the numbers. All right. 30% of your credit score is based on the amounts that are owed. 10% is on new credit that you acquire. 15% is the length of your credit history. I'll move the microphone here. 10% would be credit mix. It's not really defined all that well. And 35% will be your payment history. Okay, where do we begin with this? Let's say you just are starting off in life and you want to build some credit. How do you do it? Well, you would apply for a simple credit card, get yourself the minimal amount, which is a $500 credit card. They usually will just give those out to everybody. They really will. Go to a bank machine, take a cash withdrawal, hide the money somewhere. A week later, pay it off. Do it again, pay it off. Do it again, pay it off. Just keep doing this. So while you're taking cash withdrawals on your credit card, don't make purchases because you got to pay for the purchase. You're taking out cash and you're going to put it back on. Yes, you're going to pay a transaction fee, depending on the machine, $1, $5. It's going to be something like that, but you're building credit. You're building a history of paying your bills to a major creditor. Then you'll go to a bank, you'll open up a bank account, and you'll ask for a very small bank loan. Let's say $1,000. Why? Oh, it's for school and I got to buy a laptop. Oh, okay, that's fine. They'll get it to you. Don't spend it. Put the money in a hidden, hide the money somewhere that no one's going to find it. Make 3 payments and then go pay it off. Now you got to ask for $2,000. Repeat the process. Make 3 payments and then pay it off. Don't spend the money, because then you have to go out and earn that money. And now what you're doing for your credit score is you're building credit score points up. And it works. Eventually you'll get a $5,000 loan, then 10, then 20. You're going to keep doing this until you actually need to borrow on something in the future that will improve your life. Like, let's say a car, a truck. Don't buy those. They depreciate. Better yet, a house. Or you could lie and say you need a loan to buy a house, but then just go ahead and buy a ton of Bitcoin. And when the Bitcoin appreciates, pay off the loan. All right. You always want to make sure that if you're building credit, that you're constantly paying these loans and these credit card debts off. And it's all about borrowing money, not spending it, and then paying it off within a timely fashion, we'll call it, within a good period of time. But what they don't tell you is, let's go back to this chart here, is that new credit is only 10%. All right. So it's only 10%, but 35% is your payment history. So if you get small amounts of credit here, like 10%, and then here, you get 35% based on your actual payment history, 45% of your credit score could be based on your decision to take money out on your credit card and pay it off, take out small bank loans, and pay them off. Amazing, isn't it? 45% of your FICO score is based on you gaming the system. Hey, I wish they told us that. They should teach us this in school, but they don't, because they want you in debt. I want everybody watching this show to make money, get bank loans, and be out of debt. That's what I want. So I'm telling you that you got to pay attention to the fact that 45% of your FICO score is going to be based on you borrowing money and paying it off. You do it forever, for your entire life, starting from the day you become an adult till the day you die. Keep building the FICO score. Now, why would you want to do this for your entire adult life? Well, you didn't hear this from me, but let's say by the time you're 60 years of age, you've had enough of society, you've had enough of human beings, you've had enough of working, you've had enough of everything. Let's say you've got a really good FICO score, like an 820. You could walk into a bank at that point and say, hey, I got an 820, I've got no R9s, I'm really good with my credit. You could take a bank loan for, let's say, 300, 350, and then go to, I don't know, Vietnam, Thailand, and live like a king. Don't bother paying it back. So what you're doing here is you're building your credit up to the point where you can just borrow a huge amount of money and retire. There you go. I'm not saying you should do that, and I'm not saying you should aspire to rip people off, but I'm saying you've got the option to do it should you decide that's the way that you want to get yourself into retirement. Why would you want to do that? Well, because Canada Pension Plan is going to be empty by 2032, so it's not like you're going to get a pension, and it's not like Social Security is going to be doing any better. I think, personally speaking, that the Social Security in the United States is going to be empty by 2040. I don't see a way to keep it afloat. It's a big Ponzi scheme, and it's running out of money. And now that all the illegals are going to be collecting it, good luck, America. So you're paying all these taxes into this system, and you're not going to benefit from it. So why not have the adult plan to have that money ready to be able to be borrowed by the time you hit that age, so you can disappear with that money? I mean, look, when a bank gives you a loan, it's not like they're taking money from the system and giving it to you. They are creating it right there on the spot. It's called fractional reserve banking. So when you get a bank loan from the bank, they put a lien on your property, but they just create the money. It just gets created from nothing. So let them create $350,000 for you when you're retiring, and then go somewhere else and spend it. Enjoy life. Live it up. You've earned it. Right? So if you've been paying into the tax system, which I don't recommend you do, I recommend you hire me to be your tax guy and not pay tax. But if you've been paying tax or paying into the system all these years, benefit from it. Benefit from it. Start planning for your retirement now by keeping your FICO score as high as you possibly can. So getting back to the FICO score, this one here, let's address the 15% of the length of your credit history. All right. Your FICO score, if you keep your FICO score in good standing through your entire adult life, if you start doing it when you're 18, by the time you get to 60, 15% of your FICO score is going to be based on the fact that you had good credit for 42 years. So keep your credit good in that time as best as you possibly can. But this is the one here that I want to warn everybody about. 30% of your FICO score is based on the amounts of money that you owe. Now, this is where I can really help you out. You got to remember that the way that the credit companies do this is that they've got hundreds of things that go against you and just a few dozen things that help you. Equifax seemingly is in the business of destroying you. Equifax seemingly is in the business of keeping you down, of not allowing you access to the capital that you need to become wealthy. That's what it seems like they're doing, which again, in my opinion, makes them criminals. But it's not like I can walk in there and just shut the company down, but I can tell you how to combat them. Knowing that 35% of your FICO score is going to be based on bad debt that you carry, here is the way to protect yourself. Let's start with basic rudimentary stuff. If you get a cell phone plan, doesn't matter with who. In the States, you got all of them. AT&T, you got Verizon, you've got Virgin, you got them all. In Canada, there's not as many. You've got Fido, Bell, Rogers. I think Cogeco just got bought by Rogers. There aren't many. It doesn't matter if you pay your cell phone bill on time for your entire adult life. That does not increase your credit score, which means that your cell phone bill should never be in your name, because I'll tell you why, is because there's a good chance at some point you're just going to forget about your bill. You're just going to forget. You didn't pay it. They report you to the credit agency, and now you've lost some FICO points. That sucks. How do you come back? Oh, let's have with this one. Let's just say they don't tell you about your roaming fee. And this has been happening with a lot of Canadian accounts. You go to Italy or you go to Germany and your phone gets turned on for just a brief second by accident. And all of a sudden, boom, $1,500 worth of roaming fees, just like that. Crazy. And if you don't pay it or you argue it, they just tag your credit score. So you can never put your cell phone in your real name, ever. You can't really do that with Bell and Rogers and the big boys because they want to see identification. But you can do it through a corporation. That is correct. You take your corporate documents in. You say, "Hi, my name is, here are the corporate documents. We want to get a corporate cell phone plan." Then they'll say, "Well, we want to secure it against you personally." I'm saying, you tell them, no, it's for the corporation. If you guys shut down this phone, we can't do business. I'm not going to secure it personally. And if you argue enough and just decide, okay, you know what, leave, then go to another cell phone dealer. They're all over the place. How many times have you seen foreigners that own cell phone shops? They'll find a plan. Somebody will do the deal. Just keep doing it until you find someone to do the deal. Make sure your cell phone plan is never in your name, ever. Okay? You get that? Doesn't matter if you're paying on time. It doesn't help your FICO score. But if you miss one bill, it hurts your FICO score. So your cell phone has got to be in that name or a company name, which you could also do. Let's say you're renting a place and you've got to pay utilities. If you've opened a corporation specifically to keep your name off of bills, then what you would do is get the internet bill and the gas bill and the electric bill and the water bill all put into, yes, you guessed it, a corporation. All of it. Even if the corporation's not making money, who cares? If you skip on a bill, it doesn't matter. They're going to bill the corporation. Just as long as your name is not listed as the director of the corporation, everything's going to be fine. Now, I do corporate courses on this. And if you want to get involved, come January 1st of next year, we're going to have a subscription-based website where for $25 a month, I'll be doing 1 or 2 shows a month that are private to members only to learn this stuff. But this is the general synopsis of how to protect your FICO score. The other thing is, if you don't want to go through the expense of registering a corporation, even if you buy a house, you can jump on the phone with all the utility companies, say, "Hi, I'm John Smith, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Richard Pryor. I'm somebody. We need the gas bill hooked up." In most provinces in Canada and about half of the states in the United States, they don't ask for identification or even clarification. They say, "Yeah, no problem. We'll send someone out. We'll get you all hooked up." Ta-da. So now the bill is in someone else's name. Why? Because if you pay your gas bill on time for 45 years, it doesn't positively benefit your FICO score. If you pay the water bill, it doesn't benefit your FICO score. If you pay your internet bill on time, it doesn't benefit your FICO score. Nothing benefits your FICO score when it comes to household utilities, but it can hurt you. So let's really go down the rabbit hole here. And I'm sure all of you have maybe heard of Text Now. It allows you to have a separate phone number on your cell phone plan. All right. So you get a Text Now phone number, and that's the one that you would use for all of the bills on your house, especially if you're renting. If you're buying, it's great. I mean, do the same thing. Have the bills in a fictitious character's name and have them phone your alternate cell phone number looking for payment on the bills, because you're going to miss a bill. That's just how life works, guys. You get sick, you get in a car accident, you're going to not pay some bills. You don't want your FICO score dropping because you are incapacitated. Maybe you live with some friends and they skip out and they don't pay the bill. You got to catch up because your friends are jerks. Yeah, maybe you got a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is. You guys break up. Someone doesn't pay the bill. If it's not in your name, it doesn't matter. Also, what you can do is, let's say, for argument's sake, if your gas bill, your electric bill, your whatever bills you got for your house are not in your name and you're behind on things, you can call them up and say, yeah, hey, it's John Smith. I need you to disconnect the gas and the water and everything else. I'm moving out of this house that I'm renting. No problem. They'll cut everything off. Tell them to send the final bill to your email address or text it to your phone. They will. And then you get rid of that particular text now phone number. And 2 days later, you get yourself another text now phone number or another one of the like Hush phone number. Any of these phone numbers that are voice over IPs, call them up saying, different voice. Hey, what's up? I'm Ricky Savage Michelson, and I got to get some bills. I just moved into this rental house. And the process starts all over. So you can actually get away with not paying between 3 and 4 months worth of bills, and you get a new name attached to the same residence that you are living in, and it doesn't hurt your FICO score. Right? It doesn't hurt your FICO score. If you're not going to pay bills, it doesn't hurt your FICO score. Now, I'm not encouraging all of you to not pay bills if you don't have to. I'm telling you that I understand with our rotten economy in North America right now and the severe lack of money in the money supply right now, that these are the options that you have to give yourself. So FICO score, protect it by making sure the house bills are not within it. If at all, if you can avoid anything, if you can avoid using your real name on anything, you have to avoid using your real name wherever you possibly can. The driver's license is usually where you all get screwed. When you use a driver's license as identification and it's got your home address on it, whoever wants to harm your FICO score can do it. If you absolutely have to show identification that's got your name and face on it, passport every single time. If you have an expired passport, keep it, because you can use that. If they say, we want to see 2 pieces of ID, 2 passports, and they might say, well, one of them is expired. So there is no law that says you can't show expired identification. The only problem with an expired driver's license is that you can't drive with it, but you can still use it as identification. The only problem with an expired passport is you can't fly with it, but you can still use it as identification. Any photo ID card in Canada that expires can always be used to identify you. You just can't use it for the prescribed use that it's for. So don't listen to anybody's crap when they tell you that you can't use that expired driver's license, health card, passport. You can. It doesn't have to be updated to be valid. It's still valid. And that's the beautiful part of identification. So if your passport is going to expire, order a new one and don't take the old one in and turn that in. Whenever you get a new driver's license, anywhere in Canada, you can say, I lost it. I just lost it. Can I have another one? Keep the old one. If you're able to, have all your identification go to a post office box. Or, if they don't like to use P.O. box in the address, fine. Then go to mailboxes, etc. UPS store. Go to any of the retail mailbox places and get yourself a mailbox and use that. Because if you go to the UPS store, for example, then what they do is they actually have an address. 7400 Main Street, suite number 404. That would be your box number, but it won't say box number. It'll say suite number, which is exactly what you want to do. I can't stress enough that this is no longer the 1970s. In the 1970s and the 1980s, people would ring your doorbell to say, hey, I'm happy to see you. Like, thank you for your friendship. And that was it. There was never anything nefarious that people had in mind when they would ring your doorbell. Back in the days, people would ring your doorbell. You just open the door. Hi. Like, it was a surprise. You're excited. Someone's here. And then eventually towards the end of the 1980s and the beginning of the 1990s, every third person ringing the doorbell was some solicitor trying to sell you something. So you had to get really good at yelling at people saying, get out of here. And it's annoying to have someone, unfortunately, they are legally allowed to do so. The law says they can ring your doorbell, but they have to leave when you tell them to. I don't want to get out of my chair or stop what I'm doing to answer the door for someone I don't know. I really don't, but it is what it is. And now, 9 times out of 10, when someone knocks on the door, it's someone looking for money, or it's the cops asking you why you said that thing that time on social media, or the cops are saying, well, someone complained about your car and we're here to investigate, and so on. Yeah, it's someone looking to gain money or leverage from you or on you these days. So unfortunately, with the way the world is these days, you want to make sure that nobody has access to your front door anymore. This is not to do with your FICO score. This is just you personally protecting yourselves. If you have the means to build a cage in front of your front door these days where someone has to enter the cage to get at your front door, I strongly recommend that. It's sad that our society's crumbled that way, but it has. So you cannot let people have leverage on you. And that's the same thing with phone calls that come in. I can't stand the fact that if you have a landline in Canada, you get absolutely bombarded by people from outside the country trying to sell you something and asking questions. And unfortunately, Canadians and Americans, they're high trust societies, so people answer questions. Like, don't answer questions to people that phone you. They're fishing for information to steal your identity. Start hanging up the phone. It's regrettable, but we have to unfortunately go to cell phone plans and not have landlines, specifically to not get phone calls from solicitors. And when you do buy something online, or you give information online and someone else starts tagging your credit card to buy stuff, it can harm your FICO score. Got to be very careful who you give your information to. So please do not give your home address to anyone. Do not use your driver's license as identification for anything. If you're in a rental house, use fake names to get utility bills done. Passport only for ID for anything. And if you can avoid using your real name, avoid using your real name. And even for things like signing your kids up for sports. Yeah, you've got to give your kid's birth certificate up. But when they say that we want to see a hydro bill to prove that you are living where you say you are, no. I want all of you to change how you think. Everybody out there, you have to assume everyone out there is a scumbag and everyone out there is going to try to steal from you. And like, I went through this nonsense in the province of Ontario with the Ontario Lacrosse Association, run by 2 very animalistic savages who were harming children. And I exposed them in the book I wrote, Lacrosse is Dead, which is free on my website, by the way. And in there, what they would say is that if you were going to sign your child up to play lacrosse in my hometown, Mississauga, that you had to prove you lived in Mississauga. Why? What does it matter? What if you lived on the border in the next town over called Oakville? But to play in Oakville, you had to go 24 kilometers that way instead of 1 kilometer that way. Why would you want to waste time and fuel? Why do you have to prove this? So all of you, when you know in advance that you may have to show a bill to prove that your kid goes there, get an affidavit done instead. Write up an affidavit. Hi, my name is, I'm of this age, and this is to certify that I live in the province of Ontario and the city of Mississauga in the community of Arundel, Meadowvale, Cooksville, Heartland, whatever. I live in the city of Toronto in Scarborough. You don't have to give your address, because if you're swearing this in and having an affidavit stamped in Canada and the United States, it's just like you testified in court. They've got no choice but to accept it. And if they don't, you can do what? File a lawsuit. That is correct. The problem with the Ontario Lacrosse Association, and again, it's all in my book, is that they were taking the birth certificates and they were taking your home address and they were selling the information. They were selling your information to others. Okay. So I'm turning my Wi-Fi on, everybody. I think I'm getting some complaints that my mouth is not synced with my audio. So tell me if it gets any better there on TikTok, please. Yeah, they were selling the information. So at any given point, your FICO score can be affected by the fact that your information is being sold to others, because you never know what is going to get done with the information. You just absolutely never know. So please use affidavits when you want to tell someone, I live in a city, and don't put your home address on it. We all have to protect ourselves. So getting back to the FICO score pie chart here. All right, let's go through it again. 35%, you can see right there, 35% of it is based on your payment history. So keep that going. 15% right here is based on your length of credit history. So the older you get, the higher the score will go if you keep your credit score in good standing. 10% is based on new credit. And 30% in the red here is based on debts that you owe. And then the 10% credit mix, this would be, were you successful in getting a bank loan? If yes, how many times? Were you successful in getting a mortgage? If so, how much and how long ago, and so on. Do not apply for loans on what's called a hard credit check unless you've already done your own soft credit check. Here's the difference between the two. A soft credit check is not you applying for something. It's you checking out your own credit score. Every time your credit gets searched by somebody, it hurts your credit score, which is why you need to get your free credit score checked from Equifax and from TransUnion. You have no choice. You just have to do these things, everyone. Why do you have to do them? It's because you need to know who is trying to rip you off and who's trying to hurt you. When you get your credit score from them, you need to also look and see how many hard credit checks that there were. Because with the use of an affidavit and a letter to Equifax, you can actually write a letter to Equifax and TransUnion and tell them, hey, someone did a hard credit check and I did not authorize that. They will actually have to produce a signature showing that you authorized that credit check to be done. And if they can't produce that signature, which you probably didn't do, they have to remove that hard credit check. So a hard credit check is you asking for credit from a bank or credit from a financial institution or credit from anyone who involves themselves in lending money or a financial institution. You don't want hard credit checks there, right? The soft credit check is something that banks will do once a year on you just to see what your credit score is so they can adjust your bank rates up and down. It's criminal that they do it, but they do it. And the soft ones, they don't show up. So we got ourselves a troll. I just have to get rid of the troll, folks. Give me a second here. There you go. And blocked. There you go. Okay. So thank you for that. So you want to make sure that you are not letting them do the hard credit checks. The soft credit checks, they will do. The soft credit checks do not show up on your account. Be very careful how many hard credit checks that you yourself go for. If you go to get a bank loan, they'll do a hard credit check. If you don't get the bank loan, that shows up on your credit score, which is why you always have to start off with small bank loans. They might even ask you, do you have any collateral? Yeah, I've got this watch. I've got this gold bar, like whatever you have. You may have to actually let the bank hold on to things for you. Keeping in mind, if the bank loses it, they've got to compensate you 100% plus whatever other fees you demand from them. So yeah, secure the bank loan with gold or silver or jewelry if you need to. But start building your credit using the methods that I have talked about. Hard credit checks, you got to get rid of them all. You have to be in constant watch of your credit score and eliminate as much as you possibly can using everything at your disposal. And I've given you a gold here tonight, everybody. So I'd like everyone watching the show tonight to go to Equifax and TransUnion and request your free credit score. And they will send it to you. And look at everything on there and start to comprehend how easy it is for someone to harm your credit score. So if there's any questions that anybody has, I'll go right ahead and I'll take those questions now. Throw them in the chat room here. This is to do with your FICO score, everybody. It's to do with credit scores. You want to make sure that your credit scores stay intact. Oh my God, we got trolls here tonight. I thought we got rid of all these guys. Oh man. There we go. Confirm. Sorry, guys. Occasionally we get trolls coming in here that like to badmouth me. There's a propensity for, we'll say, non-conservatives to not appreciate the fact that I'm teaching people that the conservative way of doing business and living life tends to be the more successful of the two. So for the profanity that sometimes show up in the chats, I do humbly apologize to all of you. FICO scores themselves, I've been asked many times if it's possible to remove yourself completely from the FICO score. You know, we did have a friend of mine. I helped him write a lawsuit against Equifax because what they were doing was they were interfering with his capacity to live life the way that he wanted to. He served them, but he didn't pursue it. I actually was very curious to know what the judge would have said about a FICO score company keeping your FICO score without your permission to have even opened up your FICO score account in the first place. Okay, so Nada says, renewing a mortgage, and I'm not comfortable showing my bank accounts as proof of pension income. Nada, if you wanted to, you can get a hold of me on my website, kevinjjohnston.com, and you could, I can give you the contact information of a mortgage broker who can get you into a private lending situation where you don't have to show that to anybody. Because the private lenders, they're not going to check your credit rating. They're not even going to check your income. They're just going to ask if you can secure the loan somehow, which of course would be the house that you're borrowing against. And there you go. It's probably going to be 1% above prime, but at least you'll get it guaranteed without having to prove anything to anyone. And that's what the banks do. You see, Canada has asset-based lending, which is why the economy is garbage. If you don't have $1 million, you can't borrow $1 million. That's the insanity of Canada's banking system. Whereas in the United States, everything is capital-based banking. So you go into the bank with a really good idea and they'll give you money because they're hoping to make money off of you. And American banks are really, really, really good at writing off debt and selling debt to others. All right. So that is why it's so difficult to get things done in Canada. So if you're having a difficult time getting credit in Canada, it is because the system in Canada works against you. It really does work against you. And you need to combat that by taking the advice that I've given you on tonight's show. The other thing, and this is another one, they don't talk about this, but the Canada Revenue Agency will report your lack of cooperation with them to the credit companies, Equifax and TransUnion, which is why you got to come to me to get your taxes fixed. I know that you don't want to pay taxes. I get it. And technically, it's actually illegal to collect taxes, technically, but you're not going to win that argument. If you're going to pull the free man on the land stuff, the sovereign citizen stuff, you're going to lose. So what we got to do is make sure your taxes are done properly. I can get you back a fortune. Look, if I was to redo your taxes and get you back everything you paid over the last 10 years, that's not going to affect your FICO score negatively. But if you don't do your taxes for 10 straight years and you ignore them for 10 straight years, you better believe that will affect your FICO score. When we do all your taxes at one time and we find out that you don't owe money, it's going to increase the FICO score a little bit, but not much. It's not like the CRA is going to report to the credit agencies saying, oh, yeah, now he did his taxes, remove that, please. That's not what they do. That's why you have to be in constant contact with Equifax and TransUnion to be able to reverse the damage that's being done on your credit score. So to be able to remove yourself from the whole credit score thing is not something that I have pursued yet, but I'm sure at some point we're going to be able to figure that out. I'm sure there's case law somewhere in the world where that has been done. And if anybody out there knows the case law, send it to me and I'll read it and I'll interpret it and then I'll get another interpretation on it and then we will talk about it on this show. So everyone, FICO scores, very important. And for the next 15 minutes, what I will do is I'm going to recap what I've talked about in the last 45 minutes. So for those who are joining us late here, you'll get a chance to hear what I have to say on this. And with your FICO score, it is based on the following factors. So let me just bring the let's see here, and bring the chart back up for you. So right off the hop, 35% of it is going to be payment history. Your payment history is 35% of your FICO score, which is why you want to make sure that when you're borrowing money, you're not buying stuff. You're borrowing money for the sole purposes of building up your credit, because 10% is based on new credit that you get. So 45% of your credit score, everybody, is based on you acquiring some credit and keeping it in good standing, which is absolutely what all of you should be doing. Get what I was saying earlier in the show is you go to your bank machine with your credit card, get a credit card for $500 on it, take money out, hold on to it, pay it off a week later. Take more money out on the credit card, cash advance, pay it off, cash advance, pay it off. If you do this every week, that's 52 positive FICO score increases per year on just that one credit card. So once you've done that, you could apply for another credit card. So get a Visa and a MasterCard, both with $500 on them, and do the same thing, like Visa, MasterCard. Go to the bank machine, pull the cash. So if you have 2 credit cards, then that's 104 positive influences that you can have on your FICO score. Isn't that incredible? So after a year of doing that, as I said earlier in the show, you go and get a bank loan for a small amount of money, $1,000. Tell them you're buying a laptop for school. Keep the money in your room, hide it, make 3 payments, pay off the loan early. And meanwhile, while you're doing this, you're playing the credit card game. Then get a loan for $2,000. Make 3 payments, pay it off. Don't spend the money. Never spend the money. You're just taking it out for the purposes of putting it right back in and building your FICO score. Just keep getting bank loans so long as you've been building credit slowly. And then eventually you'll have yourself in a position where you could get a mortgage in the future. And let's just say you do get a mortgage in the future and you pay it off in good time and good standing and whatnot. And you keep your FICO score over 800 points. By the time you get to your 60s or 70s, you can get yourself a very big unsecured loan and just keep the money. And that's your retirement plan. So your retirement plan should not be Canada pension plan. It should not be Social Security in the States. It's going to be empty by the time anybody my age gets to retirement age to collect on it. You're never going to collect on it. Build a good FICO score. Take the money, take a loan out when you get older, pocket the dough. Pocket the dough. It's yours. That's why I'm encouraging all of you to build credit and keep it in good standing. When you rent a house or you buy a house, none of the utility bills in that house should ever be in your name. Just in case you forget to pay a bill, you get sick and you can't pay a bill, you lose your wallet, you can't pay a bill, you get robbed, you can't pay a bill. If it's not in your name, it doesn't matter how late you are. It's never going to affect your credit score negatively. And that's exactly how you should want it, where it never affects your score negatively, period. Cell phones should never be in your name because at some point, I promise you, you will miss a bill or you're going to go over on your data or someone's going to ghost your phone and they're going to use your data. You got a big bill and you can't pay it, never in your name. And if that means that you need to get prepaid phones, then so be it. Not a problem. And for those who want to buy a property here in Panama, everybody, get a hold of me on my website, kevinjjohnston.com. Now, how do you not use your name when you're getting bills? In Canada, it's real easy. When you phone up saying, hey, from an alternate phone number, like a hush phone number or a text now phone number. Hey, what's up? My name is Billy Joe Jim Bob Barker. and I would like to have gas in this house. I'd like to have water in this house. I'd like to have internet in this house. So my name is Billy Joe Jim Bob Barker, and the address is 123 Jason Street. Come and install it, and they will, because the utility companies, they're all greedy. They'll just come and install it. Never in your name. Never in your name. Because, and I don't like to encourage this, but I'm just saying, in case you have to book it fast, you got to move out fast, just get out, and you don't have to pay those bills. Hotmail's free, Gmail's free. Whenever they ask for an email address, give them an email address. It's like not fake. It's valid, but that's the one that you're going to use for those particular sets of bills. And that way your FICO score never gets hurt because you have missed bills or you skipped out on bills. It's a rough world out there. It's a very rough world out there. And quite frankly, with the nasty and useless service I've gotten in the past from Enbridge, Gas in Canada, from EnerSource, from all these companies, from Bell Canada for phones and whatnot, I don't care about them. These are multi-billion-dollar corporations that are multi-billion dollars corporations, not because they're good at what they do, but because they were established more than 100 years ago. So they've had 100 years to amass wealth. That's what it is. And do I care that the founders of the company may not like the fact that I'm not paying the bill? They've been dead for maybe 50 years. Who gives a crap? I don't care about massive conglomerate companies. My job is I help the little guy. I've been doing that for a very long time. And I help people retain their tax dollars, get their tax dollars back, not pay taxes and not pay bills that are going to interfere with their FICO score and their credit score in the future. And Shooker, if you haven't done your taxes in 10 years, it's okay. Get a hold of me. I'll get them all done for you at one time, and you're not going to pay a penny to the CRA. That's a promise. Get a hold of me, and we'll get them done. My name, KevinJJohnston.com. Let's wipe out your tax bill. And in fact, I prefer it when someone hasn't done their taxes for 10 years because I can get that tax return done in about 3 days. You're going to owe no money. It's going into the CRA, and that'll be the end of it. All right. So that's how it all works. Awesome. Okay. Next here, I'm just having a quick look at the questions now. All right. Moon Goddess is asking, shouldn't credit scores be irrelevant since financial institutions go into our QV accounts that are all caps? That's free man stuff, Moon Goddess, and that stuff may work if you are an absolute expert in it, but for the most part, it doesn't work, and I wouldn't count on that. What I would do is play their game in their arena, keep your FICO score as high as you possibly can, and you're going to be just fine. All right, stay away from the free man on the land, people. Okay, guys, they're going to hurt you, not help you. That's the big problem with the free man on the land stuff is you've got individuals who think they've got some magical solution, and they don't, using magic words, like sprinkling fairy dust on your paperwork and it goes away. It's not how it works. Do it my way. My way is I know the law. I've studied tax law for 40 years and criminal law for 20 years and civil law for 20 years. I know what I'm doing. We use the law and the rules of the land against them. Do it that way. How do you become a millionaire farmer? Not in Canada. But if you are a farmer and you contact me, the Canada Revenue Agency expects farms to lose money for at least a decade. So I can make sure your farm loses money and you don't pay tax. At least I can do that for you. So maybe on the years where you make 400 or 500 grand on a harvest, you can keep it all instead of paying tax. You know, that's the part I don't get is farmers feed entire cities. It's true. They do. So why would you want to put farmers in a position where they can't feed cities? I can't stand the idea of farmers being taxed. I actually think out of the one profession in the entire country that should be completely tax exempt, it would be farmers who sell to Canadian distributors to make sure that Canadians eat. I honestly do believe that, which is why if you are a farmer or you work in a farm or you know farmers, tell them to stay away from the company called FBC. It stands for Farm Business Consulting. They are crooked as hell, and they have absolutely destroyed hundreds of farms all over the country by over-reporting earnings that farmers are making. They really are a disgusting bunch of people. They suck at what they do. What they are is that they're franchise holders in taxes. They're not actually accountants, and they suck at what they do. So yeah, that's my personal view on farms. And whenever farmers contact me to do their taxes, I absolutely make sure they pay zero taxes. I do about 4 times the amount of work on a farmer that I would do on a regular account, because I want to make sure that farmer stays in business. If anybody ever wonders if I'm lying to you or not, just understand the fact that when Stalin caged everybody into the Ukraine and took over all of the farms and then shut them down, what happened? Between 6 and 10 million Russians and Ukrainians starved to death. That's what happens when there's no farms. People die. So I want to make sure, and I'll be petitioning the government at some point in the future to completely keep farmers from having to pay tax. And so long as they're growing, then they should not be taxed. If they are selling anything, I don't care what it is, cucumbers, wheat, beef, they should not be paying tax on any of it. And what's really bizarre too is that there is farm fuel. So you can buy diesel fuel to run farm equipment at a much lesser price. It's probably like half. I don't know the exact amount, but it's about half of what you would pay at the pump. And then what they'll do is they put this purple dye inside of it so that if you fill your tank with it to drive around, like your pickup truck or your diesel-powered Mercedes or whatever else, sometimes you get pulled over by losers, and they are losers. These supposed traffic guys, like in the province of Ontario in Canada, they're called MTO, right? And they're the guys who couldn't pass the psychological exams to become cops. So instead, they sit in these cars that have sirens on the top and cherries, and they'll pull you over saying, well, I work with the MTO, and I'm going to take your license plate. And they actually will go inside your gas tank and pull it out and see if the gas is purple. And if it's purple, they'll write you this massive $1,000 fine for using farm fuel for your vehicle. So how do you beat that? 2 gas tanks. That's what you do. You have 1 gas tank, which is the main one, partition it, put some regular gasoline into it that you never burn, and have a secondary fuel tank in there and use farm fuel. There you go. There's some help for you right there. All right. So keep in mind, everyone, you got to protect that FICO score. Rewatch this show, which is going to repeat all weekend now on Rumble. Just type in freedomreport.ca to watch the repeat. I'd like all of you to take the advice that I'm giving you here to make sure that you build credit and you hold on to credit so you can use your good credit score in your 60s and 70s to take out massive bank loans and never pay them back and retire with the bank's money. Because if anybody out there screws the banks in Canada or the United States, I'm a happy guy, because that's all the banks do out there is rip we, the small guy and gal, off on an absolute regular basis. That's crazy. My name is Kevin J. Johnston. Thank you very much for being here. This is the Real Estate and Money Show, where we talk about real estate, money, investment, gold, silver, and taxes. And we do it every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I want to say thank you all for being here. I can't wait to see you again next week, which we will do at freedomreport.ca. Have a great night.